Hi, and welcome to the last section of this video course, Testing Web APIs. In the previous section we covered how to store passwords in our application, why to use HTTPS for communication, and how to use tokens for authentication. In this section we are going to cover how testing can be done in a Flask application using the Flask test client. We will cover how to test custom Flask routes, CRUD operations, and authentication. Now we move on to the first video of this section, which deals with the Flask test client. In this video we are going to take a look at why tests are important in software development, what type of tests do we usually use, and what is the Flask test client. Then we are going to review our first tests. When creating tests for our application, we ensure that our application gives us instant feedback in case we change the application logic. Tests are good for proving that the application we developed applies the correct logic. There are different types of tests. Unit tests are short, fast-running, focus on testing one component in the software. Integration testing is more advanced. These can be complex test cases where we validate how different parts of the system work together. Functional testing focuses on certain features in the application and targets those. Acceptance testing in many cases is done by the customer or the end user, and it involves the testing of the whole application, workflows, and edge cases. In the Flask framework we have the Flask test client, which can be used for writing and running automated tests. It uses the test client class, which is implemented in the Workzug framework and in the unit test module of Python. Now we should open up the test.py file, where we have our first test case defined for our application. First we import the necessary dependencies, the application which we want to test, and the unit test modules. There are two important methods, setup and teardown, which are invoked before and after each unit test. The Flask application has a test client method, which returns a new instance of the application, but in test mode. The test should always have a name starting with the word test, for example test_index. The self.app.get method returns a response object, and using the assert keyword we can check the data what is returned from the response. Great progress! In this video we have covered the basics of testing and how Flask test client can be used for our application.